Elena lived in the shadow of rejection, cast out from her pack for being what they called defective. An omega without a bond scent, without the allure that drew alphas or the appeal that earned respect from betas. The council had declared her useless to the survival of their kind, and so she had walked into the wilderness with nothing but a small pack and her dignity intact. She built her cabin in the forest of Vantha 3, a planet humanity had colonized 2 centuries ago. The trees here grew taller than the skyscrapers of old Earth, their trunks wide enough to house entire families. The wildlife was strange, but manageable, and Elena learned to hunt, to gather, to survive alone. 6 months into her exile, she found the pup Dot. It was small, no bigger than her forearm, with fur as black as the space between stars. The creature whimpered near a fallen log, its leg twisted at an angle that made Elena wince. She knew the species from her education downloads. A Vanther shadow wolf, apex predators that hunted in packs and stood taller than horses when fully grown. This one was barely old enough to have opened its eyes. Common sense told her to walk away. Shadow wolves were dangerous, their bite capable of piercing combat armor. But the pup looked at her with eyes that held far too much intelligence. And Elena had always been weak to things that needed help. She carried it home, splinted its leg with careful hands, and fed it strips of dried meat from her stores. The pup ate ravenously, then fell asleep in the corner of her cabin, tiny chest rising and falling with each breath. Elena expected it to leave once it healed. Shadow wolves were wild creatures, not pets. But weeks passed, and the pup remained. She named it Smoke for the way it seemed to drift through the shadows of her cabin. As its leg mended, it grew stronger, larger. It began bringing her gifts, small game at first, then larger prey. A partnership formed without words, built on mutual survival. Every evening, Elena would sit on her porch and share her meal with Smoke. The wolf would curl beside her, massive head resting on her lap, and for the first time since her exile, Elena felt less alone. She told Smoke everything. About her pack, about the alphas who had sneered at her lack of scent, about the loneliness that sometimes threatened to crush her chest. Smoke would huff in response, as if understanding every word. Seasons changed on Vantha 3. The trees shifted from deep emerald to brilliant crimson, then back again. Elena marked time by the growth of her garden and the size of Smoke, who now stood tall enough to look her in the eye when on all fours. The wolf still came every evening for their shared meal, though it disappeared into the forest during the days, presumably running with its own kind. Elena was content with this arrangement. She asked for nothing more than what she had. Then came the day. Everything changed. She was harvesting vegetables from her garden when Smoke emerged from the tree line, moving with unusual urgency. The wolf barked once, sharp and commanding, and disappeared back into the forest. Elena frowned. Smoke never behaved this way. She wiped dirt from her hands and followed. The wolf led her down a familiar path back to her cabin. As she emerged into the clearing, Elena stopped dead. 4 massive shadow wolves sat in perfect formation before her porch. Each one was larger than Smoke, their black fur gleaming in the filtered sunlight. Their eyes glowed with an inner light that spoke of intelligence far beyond animal cunning. Elena's hand moved instinctively to the knife at her belt. 4 adult shadow wolves could tear her apart in seconds, but they made no aggressive moves. Instead, they watched her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Smoke trotted past her and took position beside the largest of the 4 wolves. The creature was enormous, easily twice the size of her companion. Its eyes were the color of molten gold, and when it looked at her, Elena felt as though it could see straight through to her soul. The large wolf rose to its feet. Elena tensed, ready to run or fight, whichever proved necessary. But the creature simply approached, moving with a grace that belied its size. It stopped 3 feet away and bowed its head. The gesture was unmistakable: respect, acknowledgement. Then the impossible happened. The air around the wolf shimmered, and its form began to shift. Elena stumbled backward, watching in horror and fascination as fur receded, as limbs reformed, as the creature transformed into something else entirely. A man stood where the wolf had been. He was tall, powerfully built, with skin the color of deep bronze and hair as black as his fur had been. Those golden eyes remained unchanged. He wore simple clothing that seemed to materialize from nowhere, and when he spoke, his voice was deep and resonant. "Elena of the Thornwood Pack," he said. "I am called River. These are my brothers, Storm, Ash, and Dusk. We have come to offer you a choice." Elena's mind reeled. Shapeshifters were myths, stories told to children. Yet here stood proof that myths could walk and talk and know her name. "How do you know who I am?" She managed. River gestured to Smoke, who sat watching the exchange with what looked suspiciously like amusement. "You saved our youngest brother when he was injured and alone. You fed him, healed him, asked nothing in return. For months, Stone has told us of your kindness, your strength, your resilience." Stone, so that was Smoke's real name. Elena looked at the wolf she had befriended, seeing him now with new eyes. "You can all transform. We are the last of the Vanther Guardians," River explained. "Shapeshifters who have protected this world since before humans arrived. We live as wolves because it allows us to move freely, to guard the forests from those who would destroy them. But we are also human, or close enough." The other 3 wolves shifted then, becoming men just as impressive as River. They stood in a loose semicircle, and Elena felt the weight of their attention like a physical thing. "You were cast out by your pack," River continued, "deemed worthless because you lacked the bond scent that drives others to madness. But we do not choose our bonds through scent. We choose through action, through character, through the content of one's heart." Elena's breath caught. "What are you saying?" "We are saying that you fed our brother every day, expecting nothing. You are saying that you have proven yourself worthy 1,000 times over in ways your old pack could never measure. We are asking if you would consider joining our pack. Not as Omega, not as any rank. Simply as our equal, our companion, our family." The word struck something deep in Elena's chest. Family. She had thought that word lost to her forever. "Why?" She whispered. "Why would you want me?" River smiled, and it transformed his entire face. "Because Stone chose you first, and he is the wisest of us all. Because you built a life from nothing and did not let bitterness poison your heart. Because you deserve to be wanted, Elena. Not for what you might provide, but for who you are." The other 3 men nodded their agreement. Stone, still in wolf form, padded over and pressed his huge head against her side. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. She had spent so long believing she was insufficient that her lack made her less than others. But these creatures, these guardians, saw something different. They saw her. "I don't understand your world," she said quietly. "I don't know your ways." "We will teach you," River promised. "If you wish to learn." Elena looked at each of them in turn. River with his steady golden gaze, Storm with his silver eyes and quiet strength, Ash with his gentle smile, Dusk with his fierce protectiveness already evident in his stance, and Stone, her faithful companion, who had brought her this impossible gift. She thought of her old pack, of the council who had cast her out. They had called her worthless. But here stood 5 beings who believed otherwise. "Yes," Elena said, and the word felt like freedom. "Yes, I'll join you." River's smile widened. He extended his hand, and when Elena took it, she felt a warmth spread through her body. Not the forced heat of a bond scent, but something deeper, something real. The other guardians gathered close, and Stone shifted into his human form for the first time. He was younger than his brothers, with kind eyes and an easy grin. "Told you she was special," he said to River. "You did indeed, little brother." That evening, Elena shared her meal not with one wolf, but with 5 new family members. They sat around her table, talking and laughing, and for the first time in her life, Elena understood what it meant to belong. Not because of what she could provide, not because of biology or fate, but because she had fed a hungry pup and shown kindness when kindness was needed. Sometimes the best families were not born but chosen, built one shared meal at a time. If you enjoyed this video, consider supporting us with super thanks. Your support helps us create more great content. Thank you.